So we're just waiting a few moments for the Facebook. There we go. Good evening, everyone. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me is Fedesta Ramsey, my ever-present podcast partner, and this is Cocktails and Pajamas. It is Thursday, the 16th of December. We are halfway through the month, and we're doing it. Like, we're all going to do it, people. We're getting there, and it's we are literally in the last 15 days of the year of 2021. So, as I think about the last 2 weeks or so of the month, I kind of reflect on how I'm doing in the moment, and then also how I think of myself and the different phases that I've gone through in the last year, in the last 12 months. There's been a lot. there's been a lot. And what's interesting is if I have to like really sit and get quiet and think about it, because if I'm kind of like willy-nilly, I'm like, there really wasn't a lot that happened. There was a lot that happened. And there have been challenges, there have been things to, celebrate. It's been a mixed bag of a lot of things. And I would say at this point in the year, I'm feeling pretty good and pretty grateful for everything that has taken place. Yeah. And yeah, and we are all still kind of working our way through it, whatever those things are. I'm on the precipice of a change right now that I think I mentioned last week. That is still happening. I'm in the throes of that. And what's been interesting is we can get into it a little bit in the conversation later, but I've been speaking with a couple of other people who are also feeling this growth and this change in their own spiritual work. So, yeah. So, Miss Fedesta.
Damn, that was like no icebreaker. That was just like right in it. I love it. I so appreciate it. That we're not tiptoeing, that we're really sharing. Yeah, it was really good. And as you were naming that, the end of the year, the reflection time, I'm like, is anyone else still processing like the end of 2019 and all of 2020 and 2021? It doesn't feel like this crisp, clean, I'm just processing this year. And maybe that's always true to some degree, right? We're processing our history. But when I try to just look through the lens, the scope of like January till now, I feel like those sequoia trees that get the fires and then they grow like 3 rings instead of 1 ring that year. That's what this year feels like to me. It's like it grew me and it was hard and it was tumultuous and it was challenging and it was beautiful and it was perfect. And damn, I was doing the reps, like whatever, you can't see my hand, but like I was really asked to build my character, grow my maturity, and do the reps this year. And that's worth spending a little time reflecting on. I mean, whatever the details are, right? I think it's my favorite part of the end of the year kind of traditions, less the like partying and being ridiculous, but the more what did I learn this year? What did I receive? Where did I give? Where did I struggle? Like, it's good to catch up. I'll speak for myself. It's good for me to catch up with myself that way. And I imagine that serves a lot of people. Yeah. So making time for that, however that looks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm appreciating your attention to processing. Most of us are probably still processing 2019, 2020, and then this year. And I guess what I want to say to people is wherever you are in your process, it's okay. And as a human, I think it's probably, I mean, this is just my perspective. I think it's impossible, given what we have been handed in the last few years, to kind of be like, okay, I'm done processing that. I'm going to wrap it up in a bow. I'm done processing 19, 20, and then in 2 weeks I'll be, no, that's not realistic, because there's been so much that we've each had to come to terms with, come to face in our lives, changes that we could never have imagined for ourselves as individuals and as a human race. And not just citizens of this country, but citizens of the world. And so, and I think it's important that we remember that we are one of the whole. And it feels like, okay, so we're in the United States, we're in this country, it's a big country. United States really isn't that big when you look at the globe. It's a relatively small in geographically speaking country compared to some of the other countries. So anyway, I'm just saying that like landmass. Um, so being that we are like these tiny ants in the scale of things, yeah, we're pretty, I want to say we're pretty insignificant when it comes to the human race. And so, and when I think about that, I'm really humbled by it. I'm humbled just by the thought of that. I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm just this tiny little entity in the scale of it all. Yeah.
I love that. It's taking me back to like, I don't know, my preteens when I was studying the Talmud, and like it's a Jewish spiritual book. And I remember this one piece where it was like, hold in one hand that the entire universe was made for you, and hold in the other hand that you're just a grain of sand. And then put that in each of your pockets and live knowing both, right? Like the divine orchestrations and the magic and all the things that happen in the personal life of one person. And then like you said, and there's like 8 billion of us, not counting the trees and the vegetables and the animals and all the things, right? Yeah. And just normalizing that sometimes I'm laughing when I say this because I just went through this. You might be processing 1985 in like 2021.
Right.
So be okay, or just, I guess I just want to normalize that the years are not going to be neatly tied up with a bow, and maybe they used to be for some people, but that maybe it's going to be kind of more of a combing through your entire history to see how you're choosing to relate and how you're choosing to be in this year.
Yeah.
But not forsaking that, like, they're never really just neatly tied up in my experience.
Because it's not.
Yeah. So it's not a new thing, but it's sort of in our faces.
Yeah.
More. Yeah. And I have to I want to name and be transparent here that since about yesterday evening, I was taking in my little percent of the news that I can take in. I've been pretty untethered as it relates to the homeland. The numbers coming in are that 97% of the population is at risk of starvation. That's over 38 million people out of a country of 40 million. So I've been pretty untethered, like looking like I'm functioning attempting to function, attempting to move like my business forward or Christmas shopping and just the enormity of 97% of my people may die this winter.
Mhm.
That's my brain's not even able to compute that. And all I can do is like step up to the podium, ask for people to donate, remind them there's human beings that we can save, right? We can help them get through the winter and reminding, like trying to humanize, like that's someone's mother, that's someone's grandmother, that's someone's uncle, that's a teacher, that's a farmer, that's a postal worker. Like this isn't just some, I think the way the news sometimes illustrates like some crazy people with a different religion with a different color skin who,
Right.
you know, are over there.
Yeah.
And I think the connectivity, like the 3 droughts the country had, are related to climate change. We've all been a part of creating that.
Sure.
The economic collapse has to do with our war machine. You know, like it's not over there and only their problem. We co-created what's happening. But that number, 97% of a country, it's, I will say it's the worst case scenario short of like if a country is carpet bombed, to me.
Yeah.
And I know that's bold to say, but short of just destroying a country,
Yeah.
this is pretty worst case scenario. And the tears I shed on August 14th when the collapse happened weren't just tears about the collapse, right? It's like all the dominoes I could see falling, and they're falling. And that's always been a burden and a gift of mine. As an intuitive who's trained in operations and looking 3 years down the road, like how my brain works, I remember that, I will say, with the previous administration, like the news of who was now in charge sent hundreds of dominoes of grief into that moment.
Sure.
It's like I was grieving 100 things that hadn't yet happened, but that seemed pretty evident that they would happen. Whether it was scientists getting laid off, whether it was nature getting decimated, whatever it was. I just want to give a shout out to the intuitives who might see one thing happen on the news and grieve what they know is coming in a way that might be different than the person who takes it literally, like what's happening on the news, and might not have that, like, oh, I'm seeing a year out from this. Yeah. I wanted you to know that because I've wanted to honor being transparent. And B, it's helping ground me because I felt pretty floaty the last 24 hours with that news. Like it's it's so unfathomable. And like when you know you're a grain of sand, I think. And I've been on the other side. I've been on the other side of being the 4-year-old with the 2 parents who got chosen, who got sponsored, who got saved. So it's extra. Yeah. There's a lot of connections there for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard the starfish story, which is like some guy's on the side of the beach and he sees all these starfish out of the water and he like picks one up and throws it back into the ocean. And a passerby says, "Oh, you're not going to make a difference. There's tons of them." And he's like, "It makes a difference to this one." Right? And that's how I feel, like made a difference in my life, that some church in Virginia decided to raise some money to sponsor and do the paperwork to get us here.
Yeah.
Um, and I still remember like my first little mattress, like instead of us sleeping on the floor, it's like some group of conscientious humans said, let's get that little girl mattress. Probably all it was to them on a Sunday, like from a heartfelt place. It was a very simple quest. But that was strangers showing me kindness, making sure I wasn't sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
It was huge. Just like I just want to name, like, it might seem like, oh, I'm only donating a sweater, or I'm only able to donate $10. That might only get one person a meal. But to that person, it's like everything. Just don't underestimate what the little big things can do right now.
Right. Right.
Thanks for listening. I needed to cry
Yes,
that out a little bit.
of course. Of
It's a
course.
whole, I just keep thinking like it's a whole culture. It's a whole people.
It is. It is. I find myself, because I didn't know this, I was not aware of that. And as I hear that number, I shake my head because I want to say for me, it's impossible to imagine an entire culture of human beings literally being wiped out. Unnecessarily. Like, unnecessarily. It doesn't have to happen. Yeah, that's just, I don't feel like my brain can, conceptualize that right now. It's, yeah.
I'm appreciating your tender heart and your care there. It means a lot to me.
Mm,
Because I also think of it as like one of those children could be the next scientist that creates something, or the next great teacher, the next Olympian. It's a loss. It's a global loss. Yeah. And like we can course correct.
we completely can. And I want to piggyback on what you said, where you just mentioned, a sweater or $10 and the difference it can make. So for those of you who are not familiar with Together Rising, it is Glennon Doyle's nonprofit organization. And I think it's something like 97% of the donations come in amounts of $18 to $30. And that amount of money adds up. So let's say it's a mother who is having her own struggles and realizes, I can give this, I can give $5. I can give $10. I can still do that and feed my children. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay it forward that way. So that $5 or $10 is added up with everyone else's collective money. And she just shared on Facebook and on Instagram the amount of money they raised. And I don't know what the number is in my head, but whatever it is, they're able to feed for 2 weeks with that amount of money. They're able to feed 300,000 people, and these are the these are the people who have uh, in the Midwest where was it a tornado? The tornadoes were, yeah, where all the damage was done. A lot of homelessness now. A lot of people's lost their homes and whatnot. Don't have running water, electricity, like all of it. And so these are citizens like you and I who might be sitting around saying, well, $3 isn't a lot of money. It is not a lot of money, but like I said, collectively, it can really do miracles. So give where you can.
Thank you, Heidi. Yeah. And trust that it makes a difference. Because it's like that stone soup thing. It's like if everyone brings a vegetable and we throw it into this broth, like it could be an amazing soup. But if you're thinking, oh, I only got a carrot, right? Like don't be fooled by what only you're bringing.
Right.
Because
If you're
there's
thinking
2 billion people bringing that $5.
Right. Because if you're in your head, if you're thinking, I'm only bringing a carrot, yeah, you're only bringing a carrot. And then you throw it in the pot with everything else, and oh my God. Yeah, that's where the miracles happen, when we collectively work together, move together forward as humans in this world.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking of ourselves as these tiny grains of sand or ants, like I said, think of yourself as an entire beach of sand, collectively, grains of sand that create a beach. And what is the beach going to do, right? So what will we do as humans if we come together? The things that we can do are pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it has me as a human who's been able to receive, and I'm learning to also give and be of service. Like if I think of all the grains of sand that helped me along the way and shaped me, the teachers who said, hey, you got a pretty cool like writing skill as a poet. Did you know that? Or hey, here's a mattress, little one.
Yeah.
Whatever those, what seems like small things, but to look at, if I had like the Soul Train line of my life and who was there, all those grains of sand add up to feeling encouraged, feeling believed in, feeling supported, having scaffolding to do the big dreams. Right. And it's like I'm literally imagining, I don't know if you remember Soul Train, but it's like you walk, it's like, oh my God, my ninth grade English teacher. Oh my gosh, the personal trainer who thought I really could. Oh my gosh, the first coach I had. Oh my gosh, the therapist who called me on my bullshit. Like they're each grains of sand, but boy, you have 1,000 of those. Like that's what makes it possible to move through life.
Yeah.
That support. So yeah, give where you can and allow it to be creative, right? If you're a coach, maybe you coach 3 people who are activists. Maybe you lend support that way while they're doing the boots on the ground work. You lend support to their emotional health, or you give a free yoga class. Like I love the idea of like bring your gifts, be creative about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all this monetary concept.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Clean out your closet, donate. I mean, it's a win-win in that regard.
It's a win-win. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for, I just want to name like being able to hold something that big and heavy and such gravitas. I just want to appreciate you for having the capacity to do that, because I don't think I can bring that everywhere. And I don't feel safe that someone can hold something that feels that overwhelming and painful.
Yeah.
So I'm just really appreciating you for the work you've done to have that capacity.
Mm, thank you.
Because I keep it to myself a little, in the sense of like, well, that's just going to blow someone else's day. Like,
Yeah,
that's just where I'm at, but
right.
it feels a lot less isolating to share.
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And to be like, it's actually it's a human grief. It's not just being an Afghan. Like it's helpful to see that would cause grief in any heart-centered human.
Oh my, yes, absolutely.
'Cause it feels awfully quiet out there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm appreciating that you shared, others sharing their gifts, cleaning out their closets. Like you mentioned, the ones, the sweater. Um, and what I want to add to that is how good it feels to give. Like I don't know that there is much of anything else that brings me that much joy than to give. And as it's interesting in the last several years where I've had these issues with my feet and whatnot. And I used to have, this is so embarrassing. I used to have, I'm going to say, and this is like 25 years ago, I had at one point at least 60 pairs of shoes, at least, at the least, right? And I have, paired, down, 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 down. And this week I was looking at my shoes and I'm just like, when was the last time I wore those? So I went through my shoe collection, which is pretty small to begin with. It might be 15 pair. That's including all seasons. And I I put I either had 5 or 6 pair, I think, and I put them on Buy Nothing, and this woman took 4 of them. I'm like, yes. So not only is it not take are they not taking up space in my closet, but someone else can use them and put them on their feet. And then, and I'm just like, that just feels so good. Um, and next I'm going to go through my closet again because I went through it about a year ago, and I'm going to go through it again and do another purge because I'm thinking to myself, I haven't worn a lot of this stuff in a long time. Do I really? It's just hanging on these hangers. Like someone else I know could be wearing this clothes. So um gonna do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it can be a win-win in that regard. Um, and there's something really, Persians do this like between now and the new year, which is the spring equinox. So March 21st, which is like really doing an inventory of like, does this bring me joy? Do I need this? Does this have a function still in my life? And not doing it as like this crazy 1 day or 1 week spring cleaning, but doing it as like one thing a day until the new year, which feels much more manageable,
Yeah.
right? Does this exercise ball, gosh, I haven't used this in like 14 months. Will I really use it? If not, should I give it to someone? And to do that as like, oh, today it's just that little table nook next to the bed, right? It's one drawer,
Mm-hmm.
or it's one thing that you're like, I don't need this anymore. But it accumulates if you think about from the winter solstice to the spring equinox.
Yeah.
That could be like 90 things that you purge. One of my, a friend of mine, she was a landlady, and I told her about it. She called it the Persian purgin,
Oh,
right?
I like that.
Like getting, like literally creating some white space in your
Mm,
home, because maybe something new wants to come in, or maybe creativity wants to come in, or maybe that space wants to have a easel And right now it's just got a stack of 50 books. Like, who
Right.
knows? But it's sort of an invitation to the universe when we let go of things.
Mhm.
Is how I feel about it. That the universe likes to fill the voids, right? So you create this void, and it's like, I wonder what wants to be there without cluttering more, but like the universe will bring something else in if there's room, right? I think of this when I do work with people. It's like if you got all this old furniture in your heart, but you want this new gorgeous lounge chair, where's it going to go if you've got like crazy old furniture you've never moved out,
Right.
right? And that can be literal, and that could be emotional, and that could be
Right.
mental, and be spiritual, it could be ancestral, like it's all those layers.
Right.
But this really beautiful awareness of like, I feel like I'm inviting magic when I let go of things that no longer serve me.
Mm. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. When I think about a new lounge chair coming in, I'm thinking, and I'm looking around my own space. I'm like, yeah, I'd have to get rid of a couple things. And I'm not over, like, I'm not a hoarder, and I'm not, you know, it's not crazy tight in here, but I'm like, I would have to get rid of at least a table
Mhm.
to make it fit. So yeah, and it's interesting the way the way that energy works in the universe, just in general, is that we so the universe will not provide us with anything new unless we have space for it. That I know to
Makes
be true.
sense.
What?
I said it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the universe knows that if you already have so much clutter, either in your heart, in your physical space, in whatever situation it is, whatever context, universe isn't going to invite new stuff to come in. The universe is going to wait until you clear some stuff out. It's just like relationships.
Mhm.
If you've got a lot of funky relationships that are not serving you, universe is not going to provide another person, another friend, another whatever in your life, because you're not going to have space for that person,
Yeah.
because you've got all this other stuff to clean out, and also probably do some work on yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a place, my business coach said this recently. He said, it all starts with a faith filled step,
Oof.
right?
Yes.
And I mean, we were talking about where I want to be of service and mission, purpose, legacy, all those things. But that stuck with me. Like, so often we think it's like all the things you're going to do on that path, but it's generally been that where I've said yes and knew that life would wildly change because I said yes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
some part of me, maybe on a soul level, goes, okay, I'm signing up for this relationship school place, right? At the end of the day, it just seems like a double certification for 9 months in interpersonal psychology. Like, it could just be that, literally.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm going to get a double certificate. It's like a master's in interpersonal psychology, no big deal. But the yes, and where I hesitated even with that yes, was like, I know my life is going to wildly change when I learn these things. And am I ready for that? Am I ready to be wildly changed?
Right.
Versus, am I ready for a certification? Who cares, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
more that meets the eye in those moments.
Yeah.
So when Diego said it all starts with a faith filled step,
Oh.
I was like, it's true. There's a barrier, there's a place where we can almost say no to something we actually want. And saying yes in that moment is like wildly transformative. Can be. And I'm curious if there's a time in your life where you felt that, or if that's some place you might be now.
ever would you be talking about? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I've spoken on, the podcast about Project Mitzvah in the past, and I finally, I wrote this letter months ago, to send out to people, to send out to, foundations and whatnot, philanthropic foundations and celebrities who might give money to the cause, or maybe could put me in touch with someone for the cause. So I took the steps and I sent out my letter this week. And the process of getting to that place where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, was a really long process. And I realize that there's a reason for my journey. I may not understand all the reasons for my journey or why I need to do it the way that I do it, but I'm doing it, Do I need to know why? No, not necessarily. I just know that I had to feel good about where I am with this in my process before I was ready to do it. And I also, I recently spoke that one of my words and intentions for 2022 is courage. And I think just knowing that that is behind me, kind of like my little cheerleader, that gave me, I really believe that gave me the momentum to move forward with this. And then also the fact that, at the end of the year, a lot of people are looking to get rid of money. We talked about this, right? They're looking at ways to get rid of money at the last minute before, December 31st for tax reasons. And so I'm like, yeah, let's make that happen, because let's see what can manifest here. And even if there's no money that manifests, that's okay. But the fact that I took the steps to get it out for me was such a huge deal. And really pleased with myself. I'm really proud of myself that I did it. And the other piece is too, I know that I know that this will grow me. And I can't even imagine how big it will grow me. I mean, I know that it's beyond my wildest imagination. So I really don't even try to think about that. Like how, where the tentacles and where they will reach. My focus is staying in the moment.
Yeah. And can I ask you something there? Because we named it the other day, and I think it's important for people when they have a big aspiration, that you named, like, hey, I can only really look at the next step, versus to get into the grandiosity of the big vision and where that might have you kind of floating or swimming or not quite tethered. Can you speak a little bit to, even when having a big vision, how important it is to stick with like the next 24 hours or the next step or the next piece of it, as a way to be like a little more grounded in a big vision?
Yeah. My process, because it's been, almost a 2 year, we're coming up on, I think it was February, March of 2019, 2020. My God. Yeah, we're coming up on 2 years in about 2 months where I got the download. And it took me a while just to kind of embrace this idea of, what is Spirit asking me to do? Because it is big. It feels big because it is big. And here's what really grounded me. When I stopped thinking about that large amount of money because it's big, and was focused on where I wanted the money to go. And how many, and I'm sure there are more, I imagine 500 people, but I'm sure that that's more than that, that will be helped by this money, will be supported in some way by this money. And it's not just giving money away, but it's also going for, what's the word, not refurbishing.
Is it
Yeah,
repurposing?
no, when you have a building and you don't tear it down.
Oh, restoration.
Thank you. It's a hard word for me to remember. So it's about historical restoration for this area of Philadelphia, which is Germantown. And because the people that live here really love Germantown. And there are some really old residents that have been here for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, have been here since they were children. So, and haven't left because they really like and believe, and they've seen all the changes that's happened here. And I have been a resident of Germantown more recently for about 5 years, but before that, I've lived in different places in Philadelphia and have a real soft spot in my heart because there are just so many gorgeous buildings in this area. Beautiful marble and beautiful brick and like architecture you just don't see in other parts of the city. So that's where my heart is, and I'm like, I really believe in the restoration. I believe that this can be done because I think most people, when they look at, when they look at the skyline, they don't want to see these boxed buildings, these boxed apartment buildings. They want to see something that looks like it's already here. Because when you have all this beautiful architecture, old historical architecture, and then you have this gray square that's 5 or 6 stories high, and the view is the parking lot of a grocery store. Are you kidding me? Like who would want to live there? I don't know. I don't want to live there. That's what I know. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I feel really passionate about it. It's something that I believe in. And so when I just kind of keep it small and I go within and I remember my purpose and I remember the reason, the importance of this, and the support that I have asked for, that I have garnered in my personal life around this project, that is what has kept me most grounded. And being humble. I mean, I want zero notoriety. I am not about that. I don't want any, I want no fanfare. I just want to be able to provide for anyone who might need it.
Thank you for sharing that, and sort of both right sizing how to do goals, right? And then just the grounded practical aspects of doing that. That is really like, let's look at the next 24 hours. Let's look at this week. What needs to happen this week for this vision without getting so overwhelmed by the vision that the actual human to do things don't get done.
Right.
Right. And I think of Debbie Ford said this once and it stuck with me. She said, like, if you're not terrified and excited and blushing and like really not wanting to like even dabble there, like to some degree, but basically if you're not excited, terrified, and blushing about it, it's not as big as your soul. So it's like, if it's comfortable, right? Like I could be like, oh, cool, I'll do a little online thingamajigger and teach some relationship skills. If it's comfortable, it's not as big as your soul. And if it's uncomfortable, which I imagine to some degree there might be some edge stretching here,
Oh my God, it's so uncomfortable.
then it actually is as big as your soul. And that is a win to me also, not from a personhood place, but from a place of like, am I playing as big as my soul wants to play, even though I've still got to take this fragile human animal with me
Right.
that's got all its stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, can I be in my divinity and bring my humanity along?
Right.
Yeah. And I think even that is a adventure of a lifetime.
Mm.
To get to do that, to be like, God damn it, you handed me this big ass vision and now I gotta work towards it. Like, that's character building and growing you and growing me. Like, even just to, I think this is the place I want to share too, is like even watching you hold a vision that's that big,
Mm.
but be super practical about what's this week need to look like? What's that letter need to look like? You
Yep.
know, it grounds it in like potentiality versus when people have big dreams and there's like no activity,
Yeah.
no follow through. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And
Thank
it's not a window we get to look through when we're setting big goals to see, like, oh, so you're not going to stare at the whole big wall of overwhelm. You're looking at the next three things. That makes sense,
you. Yeah.
you know, with any vision.
With any vision. Yeah.
Because it also leaves room for magic. You know, I'm a recovering A type. And if I want to make a plan, I want to know the A to Z of that plan
Mm-hmm.
because that helps me feel safe and secure.
Mm.
However, it leaves very little room for magic because if I'm at A and C is bumping into someone at the post office who happens to know someone who can happen to help, if I've already mapped out A to Z, it leaves very little room for the universe's magic to come in. I go, whoa, this person you just met actually knows somebody who might be actually your collaborator. I can't plan that stuff. That's why it's so humbling, those big visions.
Yeah.
You can't map it all out. So you've got to trust.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And talk about a faith walk. It's nothing but a faith walk
Mm.
because I'm just little old me, at the center, at the epicenter of this. And I'm like, okay, I was asked to do this task. I was asked to do this task. And, because for a while I was like, why me? Why are you asking me? Why little old me? And I don't necessarily need an answer to that. And I'm okay with not having an answer to that.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I know why. I hate the word why, but I'm pretty sure I understand why I was asked to do it. And what I will say about what and my response to that is that that the money will get in the right hands. Yeah, the money will get in the right hands, and it will be implemented the way it was meant to be. The way it was meant to be.
Yeah, I'm hearing like the universe is confident in your integrity and trust the know-how will come with
Mm,
time. Right? The know-how being all the practical, important organizational things. But if it's handed to the right person with enough of a baked character, I don't know how other way to put that, right? Like not an incomplete recipe person or someone who's still growing into their recipe, but someone who can hold
yeah.
space for that vision. Yeah, it feels so important just to name, like sometimes the vision is going to be daunting.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean it's a no.
Right.
It just means you'll hopefully you will not be left to do it alone.
Yeah.
Which leads me to, and I'm minding our time, but like this idea of banding a group of people together towards a vision versus going at it alone.
Say more.
Whether that's financial advisors, whether that's a nonprofit guru, whether that's right, like that when the vision comes to one person, it's not necessarily saying you've got to do it all.
No, I don't think it's, no, for sure not. For sure not. So I've been working on my own personal board. I think I mentioned this to you. And I've been working on my financial board. And when I say that, I know that on a lot of boards, they ask people to put on to be on a board because they give money. I'm not looking for people to give money. I'm looking for people like my personal board. The people that I'm asking to be on my personal board will support me personally on a personal level, because there's a lot to navigate, and you know me pretty well, and you know that there's a lot. It's just, I am a lot, and it's okay that I am. And then financially, it's interesting because I had like 7 or 8 people, and that has changed. That board has definitely changed. I think I have 1, 2 people out of the original 8, and I'm like, definitely not, definitely not. Weeded those out pretty quickly. So back to the drawing board a little bit, that's okay. But I don't even, my brain can't handle thinking about even attempting to do this alone, because I don't think it's meant, something this big is not meant to be done by oneself. It's impossible. And the gifts that people will receive just from the experience of working with me and where this money is going to go, it's freaking huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's and that's just another tentacle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm holding too, like, spirit is cheeky. I'm thinking in my own life when I've had a vision come up, and I'm specifically thinking of, like, I'm on the Sunset Strip, I'm at the Roxy, there's a band called the Kidney Thieves playing, and I see this goddess of a front woman, fronting a rock band and going, my soul going that, and me going, shit. Right? Like,
Yes.
my personality being like, oh God, no, I just want to be an introverted poet sitting on a park bench, people watching. I don't want to be on a stage doing all that. And my soul going, that. Being like that's the opposite of what my personality was at the time, right? And going to my friend Kevin and saying, well, you're a singer. Can you teach me how to sing? And he's like, I don't really know how to do that. I've been singing in choir since I was like 6. So like not someone who would, teaching is different than doing. He's like, but I know this woman who helped me on, the second or third record when I couldn't get the vocals. Like she's a live vocal coach. And all of that universal magic leading to getting vocals, getting a band, making a record, all these things that happened that came from, let me ask my people who can help me. I say that because it's easy to want to be like a silo and figure it out, at least for me sometimes. And to say like, hey, would you help teach me how to sing? Nope, but I know this person. Hey, can you help me learn to sing? Yeah, I can. And let's get you a band. Okay, like all the steps that happened were beyond my wildest imaginings. To make a record with high quality musicians who are also a joy to be with, who were being led by someone who had made records before while I was still learning vocals. Well, I was still learning how to be a band leader, and I knew how to nurture, so that part was easy. Like feed them, treat them well, be grateful. That all seemed easy. But when I finally got like the record in my hands, like the box of CDs that comes when you order 10,000 CDs or whatever back in the day, I thought all of those 2 years was in order for me to have that disc in my hand,
Mm,
right? And when I had that disc in my hand, I was like, what I'm actually getting is all the people I got to meet who are now close friends, dear friends, and who I got to become by thinking I was trying to get a record made. It was a great record, no shade, but like the thing wasn't the thing.
right. Right.
The thing was there to grow me and
Yeah.
to bring me into community with the right people
Yeah.
at the time. That was huge because when I made the second record, I was like, I know you're the dangling carrot. I know you're not actually the thing. So I
Right.
can enjoy who I meet,
Right.
people who are still my friends now, right? Because we did this music thing together.
Yeah.
So that's ahead of
Mm,
you too, is
yeah.
who are the people who aren't just your co-conspirators on the project, who actually become like lifelong companions because you did this thing together. That's also universe's gift.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm
I'm
excited.
excited for you, and I will say this as your friend. I was relieved and excited to hear you talking about it and moving forward with it
Mhm.
because it needs to be birthed, and like no pressure, but it was like let's like I wonder how much there will be talking about it,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes we need that too,
Right.
but sometimes we're also tiptoeing around something,
Yeah. For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of preparing goes into it
It really does. Yeah.
energetically, I'm imagining.
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. And the last thing that I want to say about this letter is that there was more that I wanted to have prepared for the letter, like links and stuff. And I was like, I don't need to do that right now. I need to get the word out. The word needs to get out. They have my email address. They can contact me. We can figure out the rest later. That is not these little no, they're important, but they are not a priority. So it's more important for me to, yeah, because we can focus on those little details, waste a lot of
Yeah.
time, not waste time, but spend time because they're necessary, and never do and never get to what we actually need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not wasting any more time. I've wasted enough time. I'm moving through, moving on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not getting, I'm hearing maybe it's the perfectionist thing, or maybe it's just the like, well, I don't have it all organized and in order yet. And it's like, that's okay. Permission to be messy here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what sounds more important is like getting the ball rolling, letting people know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. And you
Yeah.
wanted to do the and, I think. Is
Let's
that
do
correct?
the and question
Okay.
and then
Give
we'll,
me,
okay.
yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm going to grab them.
Okay.
Okay. So many. One of these days we'll do these in person, but there's so many. Okay. I love those musicians where not musicians, magicians, where they do all these like really fun ripples and things.
Mhm.
Okay. The best I can do is a good shuffle. Okay. All right. You tell me when to stop.
Yeah, yep, that one.
I had a sense. Isn't that funny? Ha. Okay. This seems multi-tangential. Okay. Describe the different roles you see me play in my life.
Ah, um, leader,
Mm.
friend, um, transcriber, uh, instigator, question, inquirer. That's a hard word to say. Inquirer. Um, and there are many, many more. And what I want to say, the thing that is the commonality with all of those things is that you do it with such tenderness
Mm.
and humility and love and graciousness and yeah, and I feel so blessed to be a witness to so much of it because we do a lot of it here and we do a lot of it on our own private calls and then our group and whatnot. And so um yeah, I feel really blessed to be a witness
Mm.
and a friend, but a witness to see you in these roles. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
feel really seen and richly
Mhm.
described. Like I know there's always more, but like that sense of like, yeah, you really get the places in which I play
Mm.
and show up. Thank you.
Mm. You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. So
The
yeah,
question
describe
is
describe the roles you see me play in my life. Yeah.
yeah, so
Mm.
describe the roles that you see me in my life.
Hmm. Yeah, I think as a teacher, given the work you do, um, definitely as a daughter, I feel like I've had a window into that
Mhm.
space. Whether you've been describing your father or your parents visiting you in Rome or relationship with your mother, like there's a real solid, almost like statuesque weight to daughter that I can feel. More recently, sister, like that role that is part of your family. Definitely proud auntie,
Mhm.
as I see you just celebrate your niece and her graduation and your nephew and his like amazing skills and ever growing skills on the basketball court. Um, and friend, like the friends that this feels more important than friend, like the kind of friend that could be part of a lifetime
Mhm.
versus a season or a reason or all those other things. The work that has to have been done to be that kind of friend. Um, and I think instigator in a really cool way too. When things don't make sense to you, you're pretty initiatory about trying to figure it out or having questions. So instigator from a place that's always in service
Mhm.
to the health of the whole, not just like some crotchety instigator. Um, there's so many, but the one that sticks out for me is just like the kind, decent human being that chooses to reveal. You choose to reveal yourself. time and time again, which might feel natural to you, but is no small feat for many. Yeah, the sincerity with which you show up in all of those things, right? Yeah, I think that's the thread to me, is just how sincere you are in all of those roles. And I love getting the text from you that's like, my nephew got all these 3-point shot things, and just being like, man, how blessed is that kid, that young man, I should say, to have you cheering in his corner. And how blessed am I to have you cheering in my corner, just all of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's the way you love that's most touching to me, most moving. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so touched. Thank you.
Thank you for modeling receiving too. Many can deflect, oh, I'm not a big deal, or oh, blah, blah, blah. That's and how good it feels over here to give you that gift and to have you receive it. Yeah. Feels big.
Thanks.
So much love to you, dear friend.
And much love to you.